If you watched my other video and made it this far, you may be wondering, so can you really access the depth camera in the Quest 3? The answer is no and yes. For the Meta XR API as of version 60.0.0, if you want real-time access to the depth camera, sadly, no. But yes, if you want to see the stored scene mesh from the room setup. This makes sense at this time. Consider that the room setup is designed to create a baked mesh and colliders for speed when doing depth and occlusion. This is a slow process. I'm guessing that accessing the depth camera in the Oculus DLLs is slower or less developed than we would like. So, can you access the depth texture data? Yes, there are two ways currently supported with the Meta XR APIs, shaders and the OVR Scene Manager. You could also work with the Android native packages, which I won't be covering. The first option returns a render texture suitable for a custom shader. Render texture is managed on the GPU, so getting access to the render texture data in scripting is not easy and slow. To really work with the data, you need to do that work on the GPU. This is typically done in a shader, which is, again, makes sense, but it makes it more difficult to work with. An example of this is located in the Depth API GitHub and in an example shader called Example Unlit Shader. The second option is, at this moment, the best option for scripting and getting the mesh data. Using the scene model from OVR Scene Manager and querying the scene mesh. An example of the depth data being turned into a visual mesh is located in the Fanto GitHub in a block of code inside Fanto Scene Post Processor.cs. From an OVR scene room, they query the children to get the OVR semantic classification and the OVR scene volume. They loop the semantic classification looking for a classification of global mesh. Global meshes are stored in OVR scene volume mesh filters. So we need to load that into a separate mesh filter and then query it, and that gets us to the vertices. There is one more way to get the depth for testing and occlusion. The Fanto example contains code using a raycast, for example, the inside scene checker.cs. Currently, all the depth-related features and APIs are located in Unity XR Oculus utilities. Notice that all of these APIs are prefixed with the word environment. This means that all the behind-the-scenes code is currently limited to these few calls. So at the moment, I am not aware of a way to provide real-time access to the depth camera through the API. One more tip. To refresh the global scene mesh, you can request a new room setup and code. Here's an example from the documentation, and here's one I wedged in here that shows you can just get the global mesh, and this guarantees that it returns the global mesh. Be sure to use the event-driven design to prevent any timing issues, and thank you for watching.